This is Infants on Thrones, the philosophies of men mingled with humor. We are the Quorum.
Smackdown.
So yeah, literally just stepped in the door from Book of Mormon, which was great.
Nice.
Yeah, it was real. This company was really good.
This wasn't your first time, right?
Maybe. No, it wasn't. I went in LA with you, bro.
Forgot about that.
Miserable
night.
It's late. Let's get through this bitch. Man, the freaking interwebs is ablaze.
Yeah, it's really lit up.
It was. I mean, I'm parking. Somebody else drove us, and I'm parking, and the thing hits, and I just kind of start reading it out loud, and then but from the time I get there to my seat, I mean, things are just going nuts, and then I put my phone away and did the show, and then I'm back on at intermission, and was just amazed at the reaction. I'm getting texts, I'm getting messages, people are responding, friends of people that I'm with are texting them saying, "Is this real? Can this be real?" Like active members are asking friends that I'm with, "Have you seen this?" So I was blown away at the reaction, man.
Yeah, it's stunning. So what we're talking about, for anybody who is listening to this and doesn't have an internet connection, these are changes to the LDS Handbook 1, which were released apparently on November 3rd of 2015, and it relates to family members of gay people and their standing in the church. So I say we just go through and read it.
Yeah, sure.
It's like a page and a half, pretty much, that we're talking about here. Do you guys all have that PDF open?
I'll pull it up.
Okay.
I have it. I'm the one that's usually the last one to pull the stuff up.
All right, send me a link, dude.
It's already on the Gmail thread.
Oh, sweet, thanks.
And I confess that I hadn't seen any of the blow up.
Well, no, that's good, because you haven't processed it yet then.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So you have the Scribd link?
Yeah, I got
Matt?
it. And that's got both of them on there? Or is it just one?
Well, these are all the changes, so yeah, they're both on there.
Gotcha, okay.
Is it 2 different sections then, Scott? Is that how it works?
Actually, it's actually 3 different sections that are referenced in here.
Okay.
So we'll go through it.
Okay, and all of these changes are to Handbook 1, which is the handbook to ecclesiastical leaders only, so bishops, stake presidents, right?
Yeah.
And it hasn't. This is going in some future one. It's not in the one now.
No, this is This is effective immediately.
Effective immediately.
Yeah, per their memo that went with it.
Was this? Who's the leak? Did it come
Sounds
from
like it's John DeLynn.
Sounds like
John.
Shout out to Aaron Brown, who's an old friend who, from what I can tell from the John DeLynn threads, is the one who found out about it from an active member.
Oh, you're right, Bob. They do give him credit on that. So good job, Aaron. Jeez.
Yeah.
Don't you think the church just pines for the days when this stuff happened behind a cloak of secrecy?
Got to.
Pre-internet, absolutely.
Right.
Boyd K. Packer's rolling over in his grave. So's Jesus.
Well,
So the document's titled "Policies on Ordinances for Children of a Parent Living in a Same-Gender Relationship."
Yeah, because this needs to exist. Okay.
Yeah, right.
It's so important to address this.
Yeah. Important issue of the day of what ordinances can we give to kids whose parents may be in a same-gender relationship. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
what if you got a situation where dad and mom get divorced, because dad was gay, and now dad's married, but has joint custody.
Yeah,
That's exactly one of the major problems here.
It's a scenario, yeah.
Yeah, and I have clients like that. And there's the Salt Lake Trib article that came out with this. Down at the bottom, it quotes Nick Latursky, who's a friend of mine, I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he mentions in there a problem, which we'll get to. So let's go through the document, and we can talk through it.
Yeah.
The following additions to Handbook 1 have been approved by the Council of the First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12 Apostles for immediate implementation.
Boy, those new guys are making an impact right away, aren't they?
But it is this is so interesting because when you're talking about changing laws, changing policies or anything, it's always these clauses that are effective immediately. I mean, this is a big deal, especially in an organization like this that they don't change things like this immediately. It's usually, like you said, they roll it out in every other year, the handbook and these things. So this is a big deal to them, and I think there's reasons why that we'll get into as I process this a little bit. Let's go.
Yeah. A new section in Handbook 1, 16.3, will be added as follows.
16.13, just to be accurate.
Oh, sorry, 16.3. Yeah, 16.13. 16.13. 16.13. All right. Children of a parent living in a same gender relationship. Because if you weren't alienated enough, now you've got a whole section on you. Right? If you didn't feel awkward already being the kid at church with a gay dad or mom, then
it's now been codified that it is okay to alienate you.
And we're laughing. I'm laughing here, and I really feel like I've just been weeping inside for these kids. I just, this has cut me to the quick, man.
Yeah, this is rough.
Gosh.
Whatever happened to the, you will not be punished for the sins of your parents.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they just totally shit all over that doctrine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and before we even get into the meat of it, we were just talking about it, the immediate implementation, which is they just had General Conference a month ago, so if they wanted to put something to the members and have some kind of common consent, or at least explain things to the members of, hey, here's the new revelation we've gotten. They just did that a couple of weeks ago, and they had 10 hours of just, not just pablum to go through, and then they have this substantive change that they're just gonna slip in on a Tuesday in November, right? Anyway.
Well, they're trying to cover. I mean, they had no intention of this to get any attention, and it's backfiring, of course, because they don't know that the internet exists still, and it's how would people not be outraged? So, anyway, I guess we should keep reading.
Yeah.
It's a series of tubes.
Yeah.
Right.
That was my 2005 reference.
Right.
So. All right. A natural or adopted child of a parent living in a same gender relationship, whether the couple is married or cohabiting, may not receive a name and a blessing.
Okay. Why? Of all the things you want to take away, why the fuck do you care that they receive a name and a blessing of all, which isn't an ordinance, which isn't required, which isn't, they've already announced that this isn't something that has to be done, and this they draw the line in the sand. Why?
Well, and look at how broadly worded this is. This does not just apply to kids who live with that parent. This just says any kid of any parent who is in a same gender relationship can't get a name and a blessing in the church.
Right.
So if they live with the mom who's still a true believer, 80-90% of the time, and the gay dad gets an every other week. I'm a divorce attorney, so this is how I'm thinking through it.
Right.
The gay dad gets every other weekend, right? This doesn't matter what the parenting time or custodial split is at all. It's just the way this is written. If it was, if your gay father was on another continent, sorry, you don't get to receive a name and a blessing.
Yeah, tightly written.
Does that mean presumably before this was enacted, the scenario was that, let's just say, running with that scenario, Scott, that you came up with, the mom, if she's an active believer, could have a baby with a second husband, let's say, no, that doesn't work. Let's say, I'm trying to think of the right scenario. So previously, the mom could have the baby sealed to her and have a blessing, even if the baby's father, after having been conceived, comes out as gay and moves in with another guy.
Sure. Right.
And now that goes away. And if you're an active person, a believing Mormon, and you were in a previous relationship that is now over, and you don't even have temple covenants, you don't have anything tying you to that person, it doesn't matter. It's
Right. So imagine you're a young couple, get married at 21, and a couple of years later you get pregnant, and one spouse realizes that they're homosexual. So they get divorced. The homosexual spouse resigns from the church or doesn't resign from the church, whatever, starts a new relationship, and then the kid's born, right? So now that kid can't be blessed. Even if the dad says, hey, the blessing's fine, I've got no problem with it, or the mom or whatever, even if they're both on the same page, the church is saying, no, we don't want you.
Yeah. So what?
And
do they want the mom still? Like, I mean, what are they saying by implication? I don't know.
Right, and this has real world consequences.
We all know people. We all know people in this situation. I presume. I guess I certainly know. I know people that are in this situation, that have kids, that are still active, or at least the one spouse is encouraging the kids to be active, and they're involved in the church. So we know.
We do. We know people who have been on the podcast. In fact,
well, the progression of this section goes kind of chronologically by age, or it's going by rites of passage. Okay, so this paragraph that we just read is the infant rite of passage. So let's go on now to the child rite of passage, which is the baptism.
Yeah.
So the next paragraph, a natural or adopted child of a parent living in a same gender relationship, whether the couple is married or cohabiting, may be baptized and confirmed, ordained, or recommended for missionary service only as follows.
Only underlined.
Right. So again, doesn't matter if the parent is living in the same household. It's anyone who has a gay parent. This is going to restrict your baptism, confirmation, ordination, or recommendation for missionary service.
So this is like all the way up until you're 19. So this is beyond infants, but like basically the first 19, 20 years of a living, breathing, conscious, decision-making person's life that otherwise presumably has agency is subjected to this extra scrutiny for what they have or haven't done just because of the sins of their fathers.
Right. Well, it has nothing to do with what they have done.
Right.
They could have been active, believing, worthy the entire time. And this would apply to an 18-and-a-half-year-old female who wants to go on a mission when she turns 19.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That would prohibit her from missionary service. So then beneath that paragraph that I just read, there's a few conditions under which that can happen. So they say, they can be baptized, confirmed, ordained, or recommended for missionary service, only underlined as follows.
Do you want me to read?
Yeah, go for it.
A mission president or a stake president may request approval from the office of the first presidency because they're cognizant of how things work and time for this.
And they actually have any insight on what's going on in some local area.
This is so bizarre. This is like the first presidency approval thing. It's like that big of a deal to them that three white men.
This is
temple
the same
annulments.
As, like an abortion or something.
Or transgender.
Yeah. So
this is worse than abortion. Abortion
can get.
You only have to have approval from the mission president.
Right.
Or the stake president. They don't have to have approval, because we had in Korea, like every woman has had tons of abortions.
This is temple annulment type shit.
It's
serious business.
Crazy.
Which is, to me, you have to go to the first presidency is code word, and you have to go through your mission president or stake president is code for it's just never going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
This is just a no.
Right.
So your stake president is probably going to tell you no anyway, and even if it goes to the first presidency, they can just arbitrarily say no anyway. But sorry, Bob, you were in the middle of a sentence.
So mission president or stake president may request approval from the office of the first presidency to baptize and confirm, ordain, or recommend missionary service for a child of a parent who has lived or is living, so it could have just happened in the past, who has lived or is living in a same-gender relationship when he is satisfied by, okay, well, how does this sentence go?
It's a horrible sentence.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
let me
all
back
one
up.
sentence, and then there's two more big conditions coming on. So
This is like okay, so grammar aside, let me start over with a better cadence. Okay, a mission president or a stake president may request approval from the office of the first presidency to baptize and confirm, ordain, or recommend missionary service for a child of a parent who has lived or is living in a same-gender relationship when he is satisfied, the mission president that is, by personal interviews that both of the following requirements are met.
okay, so let's break that down. So if you have a parent who has lived or is living in a same-gender relationship, you, in order to be baptized, confirmed, ordained, or recommended for missionary service, you have to go to your stake president, have an interview. They have to be satisfied that these following conditions are met before they're going to even submit your name to the office of the first presidency.
So you could be an 18-year-old, have parents that are divorced, and your dad was in a relationship in like 1997 with another dude.
Right.
And therefore this is triggered for some god-awful reason, and this happens. So these are the two conditions, right, that we're going to go through?
Yeah. Or you could be a convert. That's the other thing I'm thinking
that's
about
true.
too. What if you're a convert, say when you're 16, and one of your parents has been gay your whole life, that's all you've ever known, right? And you have a great relationship with them, and there's no problem.
No, we don't want those people.
This is so ridiculous. All the different scenarios that you can think of with this that are
Right.
It's insane.
And like you said, every scenario, and I'm thinking of different ones where a kid who has, for whatever reason, almost rejected their parents already, and that kid would love to be baptized at 16. I mean, it's a horrible scenario. I get it, but would love to be baptized, but cannot until they're 18, and then demonstrate these other things.
Yeah. So number one, the child accepts and is committed to live the teachings and doctrine of the church, and specifically disavows the practice of same-gender cohabitation and marriage. So there's an extra temple recommend question, essentially, or similar.
They're forcing people to be rejecting,
to be bigots,
their parents' lifestyle.
Yeah, and they don't even ask that in the temple recommend interview. They don't say, "Hey, I just want to make sure you're on the we hate gays team, right?" Okay.
Well, but we're getting there because they kind of shoehorned this in.
Yeah.
To the temple recommend questions with apostasy. So, but we'll get there. That's down at the bottom.
So the second requirement for this section, the child is of legal age and does not live with a parent who has lived or currently lives in a same-gender cohabitation relationship or marriage. So both of these have to be met, not either or, but both.
Right. So the way I'm reading this, and this is so convoluted the way it's written, I could be wrong here, but if you're a natural or adopted child of a parent living in a same-gender relationship, you can't be baptized unless you are of legal age and do not live with that parent. Right?
That's my reading of it, and I think that's the only reading of it.
Right. So if a gay parent then has a child who is being raised in the church.
Wait, so no fellowship for anybody until they're 18? If they're in this scenario?
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, when you say fellowship, they can certainly be fellowship. They just can't be baptized.
Well, but what if they've already been baptized? And this is baptized, confirmed, ordained, or recommended for missionary.
They're like halfway through their.
Yeah. So what if they're 10 and their parents just got divorced?
Or what if they're 12? They're going to have to be a deacon.
No, go back. Yeah. So they're 10 or 11. Okay. No, you're right. Okay, this is good. 10 or 11, or 12, and this policy is in place. So you've got baptized members who now the male members cannot progress in the priesthood now under this policy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's how I'm reading it, because it says a child of legal age. Yeah, well, they're talking about 18.
Think about if I mean, to me, the reason why 12 is significant is you are ordained a deacon, and for the next 6 years you're going to be a deacon, and that's not going to like single you out in the ward and ostracize you.
Yeah,
well, aren't you ordained though to the Aaronic priesthood? You're actually set apart to be a deacon. So the ordination only happens 2 times. It would happen when you get the Aaronic priesthood. It would happen when you get the Melchizedek.
Yeah, you're
priesthood.
right. That's right.
So
But
only
so
so
take
it's
the 11-year-old.
yeah.
11-year-old who has been baptized. This policy is in effect. Next year he turns 12. Cannot be ordained to the priesthood then.
But his
And-
friend who sneaked in because he's 12 already, it's just so weird.
And,
Like,
and then think of this scenario in your head. For this 11-year-old to get the priesthood, he has to disavow homosexuality.
Oh
Like
my
he
God.
even
But
think of
not till
asking
he's
that to
18.
an 11-year-old.
Yeah,
No,
and you know
not
what?
till he's 18.
You know what all the literature on this says though is when there's a split between parents, right, which is pretty much the only scenario in which any of this is going to
Right.
apply, is when there's parents in 2 different households. When there's a split between parents and the children are forced to say something negative about one of those parents, you know what that does to kids psychologically? That makes the kids hate themselves, because they know that half of them is from their dad and half of them is from their mom. And this is super clear in all the literature around divorce and what's in children's best interest is the parents should never make the children feel like they have to disparage one parent or the other parent. It's like it's one of the worst things that you can do.
And that's So wait, are you saying that they can't even go through step 1 and 2, Matt? If they're 11, they have to wait till they're 18 to get to this step?
That's my reading of it. I don't see any,
Yeah.
and I don't see any other way to read it.
I mean, presumably the church, if they were to rebut, if we were to TBM whisper, they'd be like, oh, just have that 11-year-old keep coming to church. Yeah, he doesn't get the priesthood because he missed the cutoff, and this new policy is immediately in effect. But for the next 7 years, just keep indoctrinating him and making sure that he's good with disavowing same-gender marriage through the whole thing. And then when he's 18, he can
Sit down formally.
Yeah, sit down formally, make the case that he has hated it the whole time, and then he can get the priesthood for the first time, go on a mission, do all this. Like, they're already having a retention problem and issues keeping kids in. Like, how is this going to help? Like,
Well, right. And if you're a teenager, I mean, they're going and doing baptisms for the dead. You know, they're going around and doing all the deacons and the teachers and the
Passing
priests
the
are going to be passing the sacrament and doing, you know, when they become a priest, there's other ordinances that they can do, like they can baptize people,
Right.
and you know, they can. It has so many ripple effects.
And all the things that you now alienate these children of not being able to do, and being excluded and different than everyone else, not having these rites of passage, and so many of these kids, like you said, they're going to church in some cases every week with
Right.
a believing parent. It's not when you're at, Sunday here, Sunday there. At some of these setups are to make sure they can go to church every week with the believing parent.
Right, and a lot of people have that written into their divorce decree, that it says, they're always going to go to church with the one parent, and if that's what the parents, decide on, or if that's what the court decides is in the children's best interest, then fine. But this is going to have a major impact on those kids. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm looking at this and I can't remember a prior church policy that negatively affected the children of gay people.
No.
I mean, this is pointed at the kids. That's what
Right.
makes me so angry about this.
Right.
It's bad enough to hurt people that are homosexual, and it's part of who they are, and it's it's this intrinsic element that they have. It's bad enough to make them out to be demons, but now they're doing it to their kids,
Right.
and they're making they're just pissing all over their kids.
And this is where the rage comes from, because these kids, you are going out of your way to hurt kids that happen to be to be from these relationships, and from parents that are in these relationships. Rather, you're going out of your way to hurt the kids. You're not impacting the parent who happens to be in a gay or lesbian relationship. They've moved on. They're certainly not believers in almost all cases, and it impacts them not at all. It only impacts a freaking minor child.
so
Well, and I think the bigger message that this sends, beyond what the awful thing that they're doing to the kids, the message that this sends is a message to all of the members. It's an in-group message to all of the members that it's still the church's policy to be bigoted towards gay people.
Right.
We hate them. They're bad. They're evil. Even their kids are suspect.
Right,
in our
suspect
church.
is the right word. I was thinking of just it's clearly they don't trust. If a kid has a relationship or has a parent that's in a gay and lesbian relationship, they're basically just writing them off. They're saying this kid is not going to be one of us, so why even bother? This is just a kid who will eventually be a dissident anyway. Let's not even get this started.
Well, that's what I don't get. That's what I don't get. So if the church is true, like, bear with me for a second, is this doctrinally, like, how, even if the church is true, could this be true? Like, it doesn't, what purpose does it serve in God's plan? Like,
well, remember Jesus said, "Suffer the children to come unto me, unless their parents are gay."
Oh, right.
That's
I forgot that passage.
It's the Thomas S. Monson translation.
You see, somebody posted
New Testament.
The line. It was, Jesus said, "Love everyone, treat them kindly too. Unless your mom is lesbian, then he hates you."
That's so sweet.
Oh.
I wish I could give the person credit that posted. I went through to try to find it and I couldn't find it. So if you're out there, props.
Well, and this whole thing is unnecessary anyway, because if they're worried about gay kids like sneaking in pro-gay, or the children of gay people sneaking in pro-gay attitudes into the church, all of these ordinances, they already have to go and interview with the bishop anyway.
Right.
So the bishop could have already said, okay, the church teaches this. Do you agree with the teachings of the church? And made sure that everything was kosher already. They didn't have to go this extra step and put a scarlet letter on these kids.
That's interesting, Scott, because that triggered a thought that is it intentional that they don't want these kids? They realize what they're doing is they will alienate these kids. These kids are less likely to come and be active and be involved, and therefore less likely to inject their pro-gay rhetoric and attitudes to other kids that they might interact. Is it a way to insulate those who aren't already tainted by this gayness in their lives, the other friends and members and people in the ward, particularly youth in the ward, that would otherwise be exposed to these kids that may have pro-gay disposition? Is that a possibility?
I think that's definitely a possibility.
I think they're afraid of, because I don't know, maybe they know or intuit that when you're exposed to something and humans are involved, especially someone you love, your dad or your mom, that you tend to have more tolerance for it.
Right. Even Republicans. That's what. Yeah.
Yeah. Even Cheney, fucking dick.
Exactly.
Fucking Cheney is pro-gay rights. Why? Because he has a gay daughter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's back to the whole Harvey Milk thing.
So I think that they are trying to. It's like when you cut out cancer, you always go like a few millimeters outside the tumor just to make sure you get every cell. And these kids, these straight kids, who haven't done anything, they're the healthy tissue around the tumor that they're cutting.
That just makes me sick.
And it's sickening because I think that's it. I think there's something there.
Well, but I think that could be part of it, but I also think it's an in-group message to the members to say, just keep being assholes to gay people.
Yeah. Well, there's no question. So initially when we read this, I was with a friend of mine who said, but it impacts nobody. This policy impacts no one at all, because any kid who this would impact is already out of the church. And initially I kind of thought, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then I thought, no, that's not true.
Right.
It does. So that, and I thought the same thing, that, well, it certainly sends a message to the members. In case you were wondering, we still really don't like gay people, including their children.
We have not softened at all.
Doesn't this reprioritize the hierarchy of sins? Because last time I checked, if you have a parent that's a murderer or a
Right.
rapist
Right.
or
No
has
special
had an
conditions there.
abortion or anything else, yeah, nothing happens. It doesn't matter. But all of a sudden, being gay is the worst thing ever, and there's this new reaching in extension of other people's sins, quote in air quotes sins. It just seems like they're really making a big statement doctrinally in a way. I mean, I know this is all, under the banner of policy change, which, then they can sort of have their cake and eat it too a little bit because it's not a doctrinal thing, but it is. I mean, it's all the same, right?
Well, it says it right at the top that this was approved by the First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12 Apostles for immediate implementation.
Yeah, 14 fundamentals.
Ugh.
Come on. You guys already forget that?
Right. Yeah. Jeez.
And it's just an acknowledgement. We aren't gonna have these kids anyway. And I know I just said that, but if they had any hope of converting these kids or keeping these kids in, then you'd want to have them baptized early and indoctrinate them early, have them as enmeshed into the culture and into the practices as you could to ensure that you have them. This only ensure what kid of gay parents at 18 are going to be like, yes,
Finally.
now I've been waiting all this time. Now I'm going to go to this church that has alienated me, and now let me. I'm thinking of them like whipping someone. Say it, whack. Say your father. Disavow your father, whack. Disavow your father, whack. That's kind of what I picture happening at 18. This real nefarious ceremony.
Well, I think their fear of contamination of these kids is greater than their interest in saving any of their souls.
Right.
And
you mean of the kids who don't have a gay person in their life in this way?
Yeah, they're afraid of the kids of maybe one or two gay parents,
right,
contaminating the normals.
Right.
They don't want to contaminate the normals.
It's basically like, yeah, it's just another form of racism in a way. I mean,
Yes,
it's just, well, don't have the blacks let into the chapel because what's that gonna?
Well, what makes go back to like 1960 in Mississippi? What did the KKK hate more than black people?
Mixed.
No.
White people who liked black people.
White people who supported civil rights.
That's right.
They called them N-word lovers.
Yeah.
And they hated them because they considered them betrayers, and so I think there's a.
Dude,
I mean, that's a little extreme. Sorry,
Randy, dude. I just want to come back to your analogy with the cancer cells. That blows me away because I've heard former bishops, current bishops talk about, hey, when the Boy Scout thing and about when they changed the policy, with allowing gay leaders is, hey, we really shouldn't have to even be around them at jamborees and other things. And it was just laid bare when people would say that. And this is just a step removed from that. This is saying, yeah, we don't really want to have to be around them, and we don't want to have to be around their kids.
Right. Anybody who's a sympathizer, you're cut off.
Yeah, and so part of me is like, the church can't get out of its own way. The cynical part's like, this is awesome because it's gonna cause more and more people to leave. But then the other part of me is like, well, it's also going to cause a lot of really unnecessary suffering.
Gut punches in the meantime.
Of innocent children, man.
Well, yeah. If you're a gay kid in the church now, are you more or less likely to go and commit suicide? I mean, let's look at the opposite of what this statement could have been. It could have been, the church reaches out with loving arms to all of its members. If you're, especially the children of parents who have chosen this pathway, we want you to know you're included. We love you. You're welcome to love your parents and to be have a healthy relationship with them, regardless of what their lifestyle is. And we want you in the church, right? I mean, what would have been so bad about that?
Right. Just like, whoa, who would want that to be said? I mean, that's just too nice.
Tolerance is, I think Boyd K. Packer gave a talk on the danger of tolerance.
Yeah. Wow.
Tolerance trap. Yeah.
Tolerance trap.
Okay. All right. Next section. Handbook 1, number 6.7.2, is to be updated immediately as follows. Addition is highlighted. So this is amending the section titled "When a Disciplinary Council May Be Necessary," and it's listed under serious transgression. They inserted the parenthetical, especially sexual cohabitation, behind homosexual relations. So it lists off all these awful things: attempted murder, forcible rape, sexual abuse, spouse abuse, intentional serious physical injury of others, adultery, fornication, homosexual relations, especially sexual cohabitation, and then deliberate abandonment of family responsibilities. So gay people are somewhere between attempted murder and not paying child support.
Ugh.
It's awful.
We're not sure which end of the spectrum that's on.
We'll just
Right.
sandwich it in the middle. Yeah.
Forcible rape's in there too.
Yeah. But I guess not statutory rape or.
No, it's only if it's forcible.
Nope, just forcible.
Just forcible. Statutory rape isn't as bad as living, two men living together.
Oh my gosh.
It didn't make the list.
Oh, jeez.
That's under minor treason.
Right.
Minor transgression.
Oh,
No, it's my Arrested Development reference.
Oh.
there. Might have committed some light treason.
right.
Yeah. That's great.
Oh my god. Well, I do like this. I like forcible rape, versus regular rape.
They should have just called it legitimate.
Yeah,
It's a
right.
Legitimate, yeah, because they have a way to shut that down. Those
I just love that. If it's like violent and it's really aggressive, that's like really a serious transgression. But if it's just like rape, that's like not a serious. That's just a.
Yeah.
That's
If it's Cosby rape, that's not really forcible.
Oh.
That's a soft transgression. Come on, guys. Gosh, they can't help but being. Oh gosh.
Wow.
So that was the only change. That section was
Right.
just 3 words added in. So.
Yeah, right. Especially sexual cohabitation versus non-sexual cohabitation. I mean, they're so these lawyers that write this are just they're so pleased with themselves, and it's so stupid.
Why do they need to specify especially cohabitation?
Because it's worse than
Don't they-
holding hands
Well,
in church.
no.
It's not
but gay sex is gay sex. Well, you know what?
No, it's.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
And we can answer. I think we can answer this after we read the next section.
Right.
I think there's a very specific reason why they did that and why they now do the next one.
Yeah, I think this whole thing that we're talking about tonight is a realignment of the church's policy dealing with gays after the gay marriage case came out, but they wanted to wait until the press blew over with it and wait until after General Conference.
Right. Yeah, they're never. They want this stuff behind the scenes. That's why they wouldn't announce it at General
Right,
Conference.
but this is also, it's just a manifestation of the fear that they've lost the battle and that something will happen to cause them to have to solemnize gay marriages in the temple somehow. And so they're like, aha, I've got it. We will now codify a policy which will prevent anyone from suing us or attempting to force us to solemnize these in our temples or to authorize them, recognize them in our churches, that's what I see it as. It's a knee-jerk reaction from fear and a belief of where things are heading.
And it's so silly because God, religion in America is so fucking privileged and protected.
There's real free exercise issues, Randy. I'm surprised you didn't know that. The freedom of religion is under attack. So
yeah, because you can't be a bigot.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Like I said, I'm surprised you didn't know that. I've been hearing this for a while. So
all right, Matt or
yeah.
Randy, read it.
All right.
Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Thanks, dude. Handbook 1, number 6.7.3 is also to be updated immediately as follows. Addition is highlighted. When a disciplinary council is mandatory. Apostasy. As used here, apostasy refers to a member who 1. Repeatedly act in clear, open, and deliberate public opposition to the church or its leaders. 2. Persist in teaching as church doctrine information that is not church doctrine after they have been corrected by their bishop or a higher authority. The John DeLynn doctrine. That doesn't say that. 3, continue to follow the teaching of apostate sects, such as those that advocate plural marriage, after being corrected by their bishop or a higher authority. 4, and this is the highlighted portion, are in a same-gender marriage. 5, formally join another church and advocates its teachings. I love that they bury it, that the addition doesn't become the last one.
Exactly.
Yeah,
or the first one.
Yeah, it's not the last or the first.
Or just a separate section saying, hey, if you're in a same-gender marriage, then you're excommunicated. They have to shoehorn it into apostasy.
And slip it in as a number 4.
And so how does this go with the article of faith about honoring and sustaining the law?
Well, they do. That doesn't, and I don't see that as inconsistent. They can certainly honor and sustain the law without inviting people that.
Well, they don't have to seal them in the temple, but they have to actively excommunicate them. This has really been going on forever, anyway.
Sure, but now it's also in all of these. It takes discretion away from individual bishops. And I think that's the other piece of that is this is a bright line rule to ensure that this is how people are going to be treated, even if you're in the Palo Alto ward with a pretty cool bishop and stake president who there's no way they're going to follow this. They're almost compelled to.
Well, you know what? One of the stupidest things with this is that this is so U.S. centric, right? Mm. So I wish we had Hamer on, but I think Canada enacted like nationwide gay marriage like 10 years ago or something. Right. So this has just been going on in Canada for a long time.
Western Europe and
everyone's
Mexico.
And nothing bad's happened.
Oh, such a great point.
Well, not only that, it just shows you how American this church is. They want to be a global church. This has been happening all over the world, and it's not until it happened in America that they codified this.
Well, it is interesting that you say that. So this would certainly apply to those branches or stakes in other countries as well, right?
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. It's church-wide policy.
Wow.
So do you think the brethren sat down and had a conversation, their version of what we're talking about? Well, there are these repercussions, X is going to lead to Y is going to lead to Z. And do you think they thought this through, or do you think...
Yeah, I think this has Oakes' hands all over it.
So I agree.
The memo that he wrote back in the 80s about gay marriage, it thought through and anticipated some of these twists and turns that the law could take, and what would the church do in response.
How prophetic.
That sort of a thing. And keep in mind that it's a pretty funny memo if you go back and look at it, because sodomy was still illegal in a lot of places. I mean, that wasn't overturned until like 2003.
Wow.
If I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So
yeah,
I think Oakes was definitely involved with this.
Yeah, and I see exactly the same thing. It's a response to their belief of what's happening with the laws, and not just the laws for gay marriage, but what their mistaken beliefs are as the impact to religion and religion's ability to control their policies and practices. So this is an announcement or it's a preemptive strike of sorts.
So then,
yeah, and it's just so odd. Oh, go ahead, Bob.
I was just saying, I'm still stuck up on, like, just for the believers out there. So is this doctrinally inconsistent? I mean, do we have any precedent? Is there any other case of things that other people do matter to your salvation? That's what this is at its core. And I'm just wondering, that seems like totally inconsistent and incongruent with some of the fundamentals of Mormonism and Mormon doctrine. Right. So I don't know. That just seems like your head would explode as a believer if you just thought about it for 2 seconds. Like, which do you choose?
Good thing they don't usually think that deeply.
Okay.
But I was interested in the thought process, or the obviously they hoped it wouldn't get out because it's Handbook 1 and it's stuff that they copyright and they really are protective of. But they should have known, I guess, that everybody gets access to this stuff. So my thought is, if they had any conception of the PR nightmare this could be, and the impact that it could have, not just on fringe members, not just on the liberal members, but on believing members, when you start taking shots at innocent kids, and set the apostasy thing aside. That one feels consistent with what they've been doing anyway.
Right.
They've just kind of clarified it, I guess, without ambiguity. The kid one is where everyone's up in arms, and I think rightly so. So I wonder if they had that thought process of this really could result in mass resignations, or at least more disaffected people, not just the people that it impacts, but people who truly love and support these kids and these families.
It certainly has the potential of loosening up the grip that any given Mormon individual has on their testimony. Because it always takes just there's some little tip that loosens your, like, other than Scott, most people don't leave the church in a weekend. You have that first little pebble that starts the avalanche, and I think this is going to do more damage than good. I think they are just so clueless on. They're so out of touch.
Well, but the irony is that they're going to go against their stalwart members. Like, I should caveat this, because I'm maybe it's not fair to channel Mike Tannehill, but if you think about it, people who are against gay marriage and have all sorts of issues with gay people and are on the church's side are oftentimes the same people who are doctrinally, really into free agency and the church's stance on original sin, and it's just weird, because it makes you choose between two things that you don't know which one you're going to love more. Like, well, I don't like the gays, but man, this feels like a taking away some freedom, or I don't know. I'm curious to know, for those diehard believers, like, which is the lesser of the two evils, ironically coming, from the first presidency.
Well, the older ones were pretty comfortable not allowing blacks to have the priesthood and any privileges for a long time.
Yeah, but this is the first case of, like, it would be the equivalent of saying you have, this amount of Jewish blood in you, or, it's just really weird. It's like, it's not about the person, it's about the person's relatives and what they're doing. Like, it just seems so unprecedented and like reaching in a way that the church has never done, even though the church has done a lot of horrible stuff in the past that they've had to, like, it's 2015 and they're going this far. I don't know. It just blows my mind.
Yeah. Going back to my cancer tumor analogy, I think that when, and just to clarify, I'm not saying gay people are cancer cells. I'm saying that's how they're seen by the church.
I think we get that.
Right.
But I think
that's not what you told me yesterday, Randy.
Yeah. But I think with their scalpel, as they cut the healthy tissue, a couple of millimeters around that tumor, they've nicked an artery here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to say it. They've nicked an artery, because there's going to be some profuse bleeding going on. I don't know.
I think
it's kind of interesting. Someone posted. I've been fascinated at reading the post, just at the heartache, some of the insights, some of the things that people are posting. It's really touching. I mean, but one person posted asked about their 13-year-old, and their response was, "What? Aren't we supposed to follow the Strength for Youth pamphlet? It says to honor your parents by showing love and respect for them."
Ouch! Another inconsistency.
Yeah, what about the 10 Commandments? Honor thy father and thy mother. I mean, why would I ever disown my parents?
Well, and this is just the most fundamental. I mean, anyone who understands just basic Christianity, like, look at the people that Christ was spending his time around, the people that he was ministering to, right? I mean, the idea that Jesus would not want the children of sinners to be around him, or that he would want them to have a black mark placed upon them, is so antithetical to just the plain ideas that Jesus taught. It's It's so far off.
Well, look, dude, you read these policies, and I don't know how else to say or how else to just evaluate it as this is the behavior of a cult. You not only cannot join us, you are a person. What is the Scientology? A person of suspect person or a
A suppressive person.
yeah, a
You're an
suppressive
SP.
person. But once you become an adult, if you disavow this someone who you love and a very fundamental part of somebody that you love, and as Scott pointed out, is half of you genetically and otherwise,
Right.
then you can join us.
No,
that,
it's not. It's
that
not.
is that is
okay.
a cult.
That it's not a suppressive person that you're talking about. It's a potential trouble source because these are people that are just associated with suppressive persons.
Right.
That's what they're going after.
That's the next layer.
Right.
Yeah, they're going
from a
after the
suppressive person. Yeah.
right. Like when Nicole Kidman was labeled a potential trouble source because her dad was a psychiatrist.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So Mormonism just like retrenched to the state of Scientology, which is really sad because, as a believer, it was always easy to be like, but we're not like those guys.
Yeah.
Well, and what they've lost with this too is they've lost the ability to say, "Hey, we're a big tent. We have our it's
Right.
okay if our members want to think differently from us. If when after the whole Prop 8 blowback, there were a couple of general authority interviews where they said, "Oh no, if members are if they support gay marriage on their own and they're not publicly opposing the brethren, then we're totally fine
I
with
remember
that."
that. Yeah.
And now they're saying as a condition for baptism, you have to disavow your parents.
Yeah,
Is taking it to a whole different level.
Yeah.
and Scott, what you're talking about, that press conference was 5 months ago because it was the Supreme Court decision. It was after that they said, hey, we now declare that members can support gay marriage and not worry about discipline. Well, that turns out to be not true if you're a minor.
Yeah, you don't get disciplined. You just don't get to join the church that your brothers and your parents and your cousins are all in.
That's
right?
a form of discipline when
Yeah.
you prevent baptism or ordination or
Right.
baby blessing. That's discipline.
Right. Well, and the other stupid thing too here is they're not even thinking about blended families.
Yeah.
Right.
So you've got step siblings, right? You've got half siblings that your parents get remarried and they have kids with them. So now those kids aren't part of this gay curse because they're not, the children of a gay
Right.
person.
Oh my
They're only
God.
like 1/8 black or whatever,
Right. Yeah. It just makes me so mad.
Oh, and it just it spins out of control. So, well, this is interesting. Hey, you guys, this is interesting. So I'm reading this.
Was that Cartman Jesus from
Yeah,
the
it was.
musical tonight?
It was, yeah. So this policy on the kids, it says that whether the couple, let's see, natural, blah blah blah, whether the couple is married or cohabitating, may be baptized, blah blah blah. So it's not really even saying. So a parent who happens to be gay that has indiscriminate and promiscuous sex, but does not get married or cohabitate, that kid's good.
Right. As long as your sex is not committed.
Yeah.
As long
Then
as
you'll be okay.
right.
Oh, that's such a great point.
Oh wow, all the loopholes here. This is great.
Yeah,
And that's one of the sickening things about what happened to the gay community, decades ago probably was more.
It's a microcosm of that same problem, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's why there were so many unhealthy things that were going on in the gay communities because they had to be underground and they were treated like they were just gutter trash that they couldn't they didn't have a socially acceptable way to express their love and their feelings for each other, that they couldn't be in a committed relation, or they couldn't be in an open normalized relationship in a lot of societies because that's how they're treated, and that's really what the church is trying to still do.
Absolutely, to alienate and delegitimize committed relationships and make it particularly bad by, like you said, someone's talked about a scarlet letter on black marker, a scarlet letter on these kids' chests.
Yeah, sounds pretty pro-family to me. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, you know what's going through my mind's eyes is these guys are meeting together, these old guys, and all they're thinking about is potential gay couple that still wants to be part of the ward, and they adopt a kid. They want that. All they were thinking about was that scenario. They didn't think it further steps for more
I think you're
complicated
right.
family situations.
Really?
Yes,
Well, maybe Oakes did.
I
Maybe
think
Oakes did, but then he probably handed it over, and he's got enough clout, and the old guys that are slow are like, well, Oakes said it's okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I bet Ballard was in on this too. He just spoke at that World Conference
Yeah.
of Families
Oh, right.
conference thing, and
He was. Yeah.
I'll bet you there's 10 different memos on this thing analyzing the repercussions. I mean,
And ultimately they don't care because
right.
this Bob used the right word, I think, the retrenchment. This is not, they've talked about, we're open to we're supportive of gay and lesbian rights as it pertains to housing and blah 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 blah, and this is just a retrenchment and saying no, we really are isolating ourselves on this issue, and those who support it, go away, we're fine with that.
Yeah, and you know what the other thing this does is this makes it as clear as it could possibly be clear to everyone that the church is not changing their position on gays.
Yep.
So they have codified a committed homosexual relationship as part of the definition of apostasy. So how can they turn the ship after that?
Nope. You're right. And the discussions people have of, at what point do you think the church will change their position? No, they won't. And at least they want to make sure. And this is the old garb, the 90-year-olds that are in charge, the Oaks, setting in motion or preventing, hopefully, this change from decades down the road. I think
Right.
that's a goal or a motivation too.
It is, because it's going backwards in order to prevent any movement going forwards. Because this is
Right.
literally resetting the clock by about 50 years. So, I mean, it's like Nazi Jew type stuff. So it's pretty outdated at this point. That I don't know. I'm being a little extreme, but still, it just feels.
I feel the same way, dude. I had the same kind of thoughts towards Nazism. I did.
It's pretty horrible. So then, Scott, you mentioned, and I'll let you speak for yourself. I don't mean to get it out of you live, but this might preempt or prompt you to take action in certain ways.
Yeah, I mean this is a trigger. Like, so I haven't resigned yet.
Okay, I just said what I said I wasn't going to do. I don't know why I did that.
That was a perfect segue to saying it. So
right.
This is the kind of thing that, I mean, I haven't considered myself a member in any meaningful way for a long time, but this is the kind of thing that makes me feel like I have to formally disassociate, even though I'm not really that motivated to do that. Like it's sort of the whatever social cost there is, and just the hassle of actually sitting down and typing up a letter. But this is so infuriating. This makes me want to post it on my on a bumper sticker and say, I resigned and this is why.
Yeah,
I hear you.
It just makes me so disgusted to be in any way affiliated with a group that is actively hurting
kids,
children that are already in a situation which is unfortunate. They're probably children of divorced parents. One of their parents has probably gone through an awful coming out as a former member of the church. I mean, this is this small subsection that they're targeting, and then they're going a generation below that, and it makes my skin crawl with how disgusting it is.
And you're not the only one that has articulated that. I haven't seen something that the church has done garner that type of reaction, or as much of a reaction for people who want to resign. There were the mass resignations over Kate Kelly, and let's stand in support of John DeLynn, and I never supported that. I always thought, look, resign for your own reasons. Don't take up the cause for Kate Kelly or John or somebody else. But that was just my view. But this people are saying, no, I am offended at this policy, and I'm resigning over it. And I've been shocked by it.
Can I resign again? Can I do a second resignation?
That's what I said, dude.
Sure. Send it a letter. Why don't you start that as a thing?
It's like, yeah, I'm on my third resignation.
Yeah, I might co-sign on this one myself. I mean, I've been pretty apathetic, and I feel like I need to apologize to my mom in advance, because my excuse has always been like, oh, I don't want my mom to cry at tithing settlement when my name isn't on the list of like sealed children or whatever. Not that it matters to me, but it matters to her. So I was always thinking like I'd wait until I'm a lot older. And
Yeah, but
it's
this
so
makes me
ironic.
cry. This makes me cry.
Right.
This
So-
makes me as angry as anything has in years, and oh, it makes me so mad.
This
You know what
is-
we need to do? We need to do resignations for the dead. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to start resigning my dead
For
ancestors.
my ancestors.
Yeah, for and on behalf of my great grandparents.
love it.
Because my grandparents were not bigots. And but so this was so serendipitous. It was so interesting how this played out today and the conversations we had today. Before the play, we went to dinner and we were talking about tithing settlement, and that my parents were likely going to go to tithing settlement and find out about this, about our
Right.
nation rather. And we were having that conversation before we knew about this policy, and we're kind of talking about, that's going to be awkward, that's going to be rough. I don't really want to have that conversation. This happened, and then on our way out of the play, processing this, I looked at my wife and I said, I dare them to say something. I dare my parents to say something now about resigning, because my response will be, you don't get to ask me that question. You have to explain to me why you will support that church. It flipped on a dime over this for me and how I would approach my parents
good
over
point.
the resignation.
Yeah,
It's a two-way street. It's just
Yeah.
as much an indictment of the other side as it is.
Well, and here's the thing too. There's a lot of stuff about the church that has pissed me off. Obviously, the historical problems and things like that have been really important to me. This is not an esoteric discussion. This is something that's going on right now. This is something that people in the next month or two are going to have serious trauma in their lives because of the church saying this.
Yeah. And people will die over this, because we talked about the children of gay and lesbian couples, but I'm now thinking of these poor gay kids, that now another thing to be reinforced of, you are an apostate, you are a serious transgressor, you are on par with a murderer, a person who forcibly rapes, but you're not, you're on par with that, and somebody who does regular rape is actually better than you. I mean
Regular rape.
the thing that this is being communicated to these gay and lesbian kids, transgendered, all these kids, and it will result in suicides. They have blood on their hands.
I don't know if I would go that far, because this is the
What?
Well, but
this
here's
is the church. This is the church handbook of instructions, and
but it's out there.
But it's out there. Yeah, it's now on the Washington Post. It's on the Salt Lake Tribune. So
They will
kids
only-
tomorrow.
Okay, say you're a gay kid, 16 years old, straight parents. It's already bad enough. The church.
No, but here's the thing. They know that at least if they could be in a hetero relationship and have kids and get married and everything like that, this tells them that if you're gay, your kids are tainted too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, if that message gets to them, it's just.
You're right. And you're right. That's fair, Andy.
I'm just saying I don't know what the penetrance will be to the, and I'm gonna find out maybe in a month or two to find out if my dad and my little brother know about this.
Yeah.
I don't even think they are aware. I still think they think the Book of Mormon was translated like in all the pictures,
Well, this is
even though that's in the ensign.
this is going to be a big enough of a cultural storm that it's going to reach a lot of chapel Mormons.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
I'm gonna let Righteous Indignation Bob out on Facebook a little bit on this one. Normally, I try not to be
Yeah.
that guy.
I'm very tempted too, dude. And I have seen, again, people that normally do not post negative church stuff, or they are now.
Yeah, this is a big one. This is huge. It's
And
unprecedented.
it's because it's kids, man. Don't mess with kids. And that's so much of my career has been, don't mess with kids. And that's what this organization is doing, and that I think is where I think that's where everybody's reaction is coming
No
from.
doubt, they're going after kids who didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's it's unnecessary and baffling to me. These idiots can't get out of their own way.
Deseret News finally has an article on it.
Oh, how are they whitewashing it?
LDS Church reaffirms doctrine of marriage, updates policy on families and same-sex marriages.
Oh, that's lovely. I
Yeah.
like that.
Oh,
Reaffirming that doctrine that's found where again? Yeah, that whole doctrine that
Wait, I thought it was a policy.
built around this.
are you kidding me? Jesus,
Right.
The
Jesus
church-
had so much to say about this.
The church has long been on record as opposing same-sex marriages. While it respects the law of the land and acknowledges the right of others to think and act differently, it does not perform or accept same-sex marriage within its membership. Okay, I want to see what they say about the kids real quick.
I bet you they don't even mention.
They probably aren't even going to go there. It's too.
It's indefensible.
Yeah, there's nothing to say.
They do. They reference it. They say,
Oh, really?
yeah, the new section is listed as children of a parent, blah, blah, blah. Although children are not officially considered members of the LDS Church until they are baptized at 8, the blessing of a child creates a membership record. Children are not considered accountable or mature enough to receive baptism until the age
They're
of 8.
giving a Sunday school lesson now.
The handbook edition
Frickin'
also
newspaper?
states.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're reading it. Okay, there's no commentary. The language
Yeah.
of same-gender marriage has been added to the definition of apostasy. So this is
They
more of
glossed
informational, no comment.
They glossed over it.
Yep.
Yeah, they just it's out there. They've got to be a part of it too. And this to me highlights how indefensible it is that the Deseret freaking News can't even do
Make
anything
news
but
out of it.
say just
They
the
can't
facts, man.
They can't even spin doctor it. They just listed off what the policies of what is actual church membership. These are not the droids you're looking for, and so on.
Well, and they're not. I mean, this sentence that says, although children are not officially considered members of the church until they're baptized, the blessings create a membership record. But right above that, it says that if their parents are gay, they can't get a blessing.
Right.
So I mean, they're not explaining it at all.
Jesus said, love everyone, treat them kindly too. When your heart is filled with love, others will love you. Thank you for listening to Infants on Thrones.